Hello and welcome people back to Let's Play Syberia for the Xbox. We're going to begin with the lecture right about now.
There you are, Miss Walker. Good, good. Take a seat quickly. I'm impatient to start my lesson. My young friends, a very exciting discovery, unimaginable up until only a few hours ago, has come into my hands and has finally allowed me to complete my study on the mysterious Yukol people. Lights, please. The Yukols are a people from the far north about whom very little is known. They live far away, very far away, on the frozen borders of Syberia. This distance and the climatic conditions of the region, which are unfavorable to human existence, have limited the size of the Yukol population and kept it out of reach of the scientific world. The handful of slides that follow are actually the only documentation we have in our possession. It was a Russian explorer who made these drawings and took these photographs 100 or so years ago. Today, we owe what we know about the Yukol people and their culture to him. We know that the origins of the Yukols date back to the last ice age. Curiously, evidence of their presence has been found in Western Europe, and more precisely in the prehistoric caves at the heart of the Alps. This people, it seems, undertook a long migration over centuries towards the far north of the globe. The reasons for this migration are due to the importance of the mammoth in their craft, trade, and culture. They used them for transportation and as beasts of burden. The mammoth brought them meat, skins, fat, and ivory. Man and animal lived in symbiosis. There's no doubt about it. Mammoths started to drift away from the region due to changing climatic conditions, and the Yukols followed them to the north, to the edges of Syberia. Prehistoric cave drawings, identified as Yukol in origin, first led me to the extraordinary hypothesis that the Yukols had managed to domesticate the mammoth. They are, to the best of our knowledge, the only prehistoric people to represent a man riding a mammoth. Today, because of this genuine mammoth skin effigy, identified by myself as an authentic Neolithic object, I can confirm this hypothesis. Yukol forebears managed to tame mammoths. Prehistoric man uses little imagination. He draws what he sees and represents scenes from real life. This familiar day-to-day object is actually a children's toy. As we have seen, Yukol existence was inextricably linked to that of the mammoth. They used its skin for clothing and to make the roofs and walls of their houses. They used the tusks to build the frameworks of their homes, as well as weapons, tools, and jewelry. Curiously, the disappearance of the mammoth 12,000 years ago had no immediate effect on the Yukol's way of life. It seemed that for a long time after, the people maintained their strong bond with the mammoth through the centuries. As incredible as it may seem, the Yukol people have continued right up until the start of this century to feed themselves on mammoth meat and to use the skin for clothing and shelter. Their ivory craftwork industry is still flourishing. It would appear that to preserve ancestral customs, the Yukols learned how to exploit through the centuries the large number of frozen mammoth carcasses that were perfectly preserved in the ice of the Siberian tundra. They have been able to live mainly off this enormous freezer stock for almost 30 centuries. As plausible as this explanation may seem, it seems it is not enough for the scientific community who, I will confess, is greatly perplexed by the question. In the absence of acceptable scientific evidence, we have to make do with Yukol shaman artifacts. The research department that I have the honor to represent today lends no credence to the myths and legends that these tribal charlatans peddle. We have to take their stories at face value, mere tales to while away the long Siberian winter. The legend of the Siberian ice ark is a very good example, and you are invited to find out for yourselves from the pamphlet that I had passed around to you. This legend would have us believe that today, somewhere on a lost island to the north of Syberia, there are living mammoths still in existence, a sort of hangover from the Ice Age. This small herd has been miraculously preserved for more than 120 centuries by the Yukul's tender care, and the island on which the pachyderms are said to live is called Syberia. My friends, I advise you to resist the temptation you may have to believe in this pish and tish. The island of Syberia is not charted on any map, and the idea that mammoths have survived to the 21st century is an idle scientist's pipe dream. The Yukuls were sadly among the first victims of the colonization of continental Syberia led by the Russians in the 20th century. The Kolkhoz and Sovkhoz systems, as well as the exploitation, disdain, and humiliation the people had to suffer, marked a definitive break in the Yukul's traditional lifestyle. Since the collapse of the communist regime, the Yukul population finds itself confronted with the same political and social upheavals that other Siberian communities are experiencing. There are two consequences to arise from this. Some Yukuls have lost their tribal identity and have integrated into the Russian population. Others, however, have sought long and hard to re-establish links with their ancestral culture that was lost under the Soviet regime. Now, at the start of the 21st century, the last true surviving Yukuls have gone to live on the vast territories of their ancestors. Nobody knows today where they live or how they survive. Their very existence would be a matter for speculation if they did not turn up periodically at the tundra's most isolated fur trading posts to exchange mammoth tusks for essential items. There ends my lecture for today. Thank you for being among us today, Miss Walker. Please make your way to the laboratory where you will find your mammoth doll. There are also photocopies of my lectures should you so require them.
So yeah, that was it for the lecture. Actually, a lot of the this is an exposition dump, as hard as they go, but it actually has information that is relevant for both this game, but mostly for the second one and even for the third one.
That's pretty punishing to new players.
Yeah. Like, it's not the kind of information that you absolutely need in order to progress through those games. It adds backstory and such, but yeah, like, actually, I would say good 80% of that lecture is only relevant for the sequels of this game.
Yeah, I slept through it just like I slept through most of art history.
And you still passed.
They weren't talking about
Professor,
horses.
it's me. I've come to pick up the mammoth doll.
The doll is waiting for you there, Miss Walker. Please take good care of it.
Don't worry. I'm beginning to get quite attached to it myself. Can I trouble you just a little longer?
With pleasure, Kate. I'm all ears.
I must congratulate you for your lecture. You were right. The subject is absolutely fascinating. I never believed that mammoths could be so interesting.
What you heard was only the tip of the iceberg, my dear. But if I have at least awoken a passion in you, I'm only too proud.
Did Hans Vorarlberg agree with your hypothesis on the Yukuls being able to tame mammoths?
Now, Hans was no man of science. His pathological obsession was to find mammoths that were still in existence. Such a hypothesis is somewhat overblown, don't you think?
You don't believe in it yourself?
Mammoths died out thousands of years ago. Of this we are certain. Today, the only mammoths in Syberia are frozen ones.
Do you know where Hans might have gone after his stay here in Barrackstadt?
No, but I would not be surprised if he left in search of the Yukuls. or what is left of them today.
What would you say about seeing Hans Varlberg again? After all, you could come with me and help me find him.
Young lady, you are very kind. I'm far too old for such escapades.
You're Hans Varlberg. I'll leave you in peace. I hope I haven't disturbed you too much.
Sorry?
It sucks when
not at all.
professors refuse your advances.
Now, as you mentioned, well, when I probably cut it out from the conversation, but yeah, I like the conversations you can have, most of which are optional. Because they show how our main character will react to things, and mostly how she changes along the way. And here is actually not a summary of the lecture, it's actually somewhat more information. Especially mostly actually on the second page. I do love that they put the coffee stain on it. It's very authentic that way.
Yeah. I guess they drink coffee. I was wondering if it could be tea.
It's probably coffee. And how it's on both sides of the paper. But yeah, the second page mostly talks about the Ark.
Of the Covenant?
Well, it actually goes to the island called Syberia, and it brings mammoth meat for the Yukols. However, it's only a legend that's very relevant to the ending portions of the second game. See, this is what I mean. Like
So had they planned out like a series of games when they were making this one, or did they make this game to fit what happened in this one? Like,
they very much planned out the first two games, and then the third one sort of came about.
gotcha.
Because well, it's not gonna be too much of a spoiler, but we don't even go to Syberia in this one.
What? The game's called Syberia, so it was one of those things where they had one game and they split it into two parts.
Pretty much, but I don't think it would have been a very good idea to have it be, well, both games. It would have been really, really long.
Well,
And, like, I don't think it would have done well for the pacing.
I mean, we'll see, I suppose. I've never seen anything. The only time I watched this game, they ended it still back in the factory. But
Yeah, the Valhalla line.
yeah, but I'll have to see how this ends then, because I kind of had an idea of what the series of things was going to happen in this game, and if they don't go to Syberia, that changes it. But anyway.
But yeah, now that we have obtained our the mammoth doll back, we can move the train.
Because the train is mammoth doll triggered to go forward.
Yes, because it's one of the things that was actually required for it to run, to actually leave from Valhalla line, and now it's gone.
Yeah. Was that because Oscar wouldn't let you, or because there was like some mechanical thing that responded to it?
Oh, well, let's say it's more or less the exact same thing when it comes to Oscar.
Well, yes, he is a mechanical thing, I suppose.
Exactly, and he is the thing that is preventing our progress. But what he says, more or less, is not all of the requirements have been met in order to depart. And one of the requirements, as of Valhalla line, was to have the mammoth doll on the train.
I'm having like a terrible allergy day today. Sorry.
So yeah, this is probably some kind of mechanism, the way it looks.
I don't quite. Yeah. It's exactly weighted for a mammoth doll. Is the thing.
Yes, specifically for that one.
Yeah.
Based on all of the data that people have of mammoth dolls from that era.
Everything okay?
Yes, Kate Walker. I am waiting to continue our journey.
Oscar, if you tell me one more time something's missing, I'll...
Everything is ready. Take your seat, Kate Walker. We are leaving.
I'll... Okay...
So how much of the items in this game are optional?
Not too many, but there are a couple. For example, that summary of the lecture was optional. We didn't have to pick it up.
Okay. Are all of the items that are optional expositional items, or are there like?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like there's little cutesy things you can find.
Not really. The only thing I can think of that would be similar to it would be extra dialogue choices that are available, for example, only at a certain point in time. That's as far as it goes. It's a very linear point-and-click game.
Gotcha. I do. You know, that's another reason that King's Quest VI is the greatest game of all time.
It has so many things that can be used in different ways, in different orders.
And like
What are you doing
4
there,
different
Oscar?
endings
It is
that are
imperative
arrived
we
at
comply
very
with
differently.
railroad and customs regulations,
Well,
Kate Walker.
some of them are arrived at.
Oscar, don't you think we could drop the trifling details once and for all?
We need an exit visa to get beyond the wall, Kate Walker.
And you wouldn't know where I could get one of them from, would you?
There is usually some form of authority stationed at a guard post that is strategically positioned to issue such a visa.
Do you realize, my good man, that as a lawyer charged with an important matter of inheritance, I could sue you for obstructing justice?
I don't think she could
Kate
actually.
Walker, we still need an exit visa in any case.
I don't think obstruction of justice applies
Oscar?
in this case.
Don't you think we've wasted enough time already?
You neglected to find the clockwork winding mechanism for the train with sufficient haste, Kate Walker.
What nerve! And you refused to lend a helping hand. Help that could have been invaluable to me.
I agree, Kate Walker.
If you weren't so obsessed by procedure, we wouldn't have had a hitch.
I am not entirely convinced, Kate Walker.
Oscar, please, let's get in the train and leave, can we?
Yes, Kate Walker. Give me the visa.
I don't suppose you can help me get this visa then?
Your non-supposition is correct, Kate Walker.
You do realize, don't you, Oscar, that by preventing me from continuing this journey, you are also depriving yourself of the opportunity to meet your creator, Hans Vorarlberg.
Procedure requires an exit visa, Kate Walker.
God, I think I'm going crazy.
That is not a requirement, Kate Walker. Only an exit visa is necessary.
Oscar, the automaton that drives this train will be really impatient to leave soon because he's totally obsessed about punctuality.
Yes, Kate Walker.
And it's weird because sometimes when he drops all that stuff about procedure, he can be so charming and attentive.
Please refrain from attributing human emotions to me, Kate Walker.
Okay, see you later, Oscar.
Yes, Kate Walker.
Alright, so now the only way that we can proceed is we have to find a back door to this place and assassinate Oscar. There we go.
As his hydraulic fluid
No
spills
point.
all over the
It's
floor,
locked.
Kate laughs maniacally.
Well, at this point, you know, she would be excused. But yeah, a strategically placed location is just beyond these doors.